Cyberpunk 2077 disappointed. It was full of promise and hope, but just like 2020, turned into a nightmare. But I do believe 2021 will be better. Or not, who actually knows? I'd kindly ask you to sub to the channel for your RPG news. We are so close to 500 guys. Now, let's take a look into the 5 RPGs I think could outdo Cyberpunk 2077 this year in 2021. Don't get me wrong, I love Cyberpunk. It will eventually be the game it was supposed to be in 2021, when apparently it should have launched. There is gonna be plenty of competition in the RPG space this year moving forward. And getting into our list, the first game is gonna be Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines II. If you're in the mood to play as a stealthy, blood-sucking monster, this game is just for you. Being the sequel to the ancient 2004 Vampire the Masquerade, the series is looking to make a comeback. This action RPG takes place within the World of Darkness universe, set up by the tabletop games. Bloodlines 2 will take players to Seattle in the year 2021. Hopefully their 2020 wasn't as horrific as ours, but people are getting killed by vampires, so probably not. You become a thin blood when you're attacked by a group of rogue vampires, which in turn causes friction between the vampire factions. Players will have to adapt to their new lifestyle and learn how to survive in a city ran by different vampire factions. Players will be able to customize their characters in the form of disciplines, vampire clans, and the factions they choose to join. Bloodlines 2 could end up being a very good stealth RPG. The added world of vampires is fresh, for the most part. The game was delayed in 2020, so I hope they really learn from CDPR's fiasco, and take all the time necessary to get the game right. To make it kinda more funny, Hardsuits Labs' only other game created was a cyberpunk-themed FPS, so take that as you will. So if you want to live your dream as a blood-sucking killer, keep the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 on your radar this year. And remember, always keep the masquerade up. Coming from a developer who worked on the Gears of War franchise and Fortnite is a game called Outriders. It is described as a story-driven RPG shooter. Yeah, so it's not a typical RPG, it is more of a Destiny, but it looks like it could be a really good game coming this year, mixing the elements of Destiny and Gears. I do have a soft spot for Destiny 2, so sue me. Outriders takes place on the planet Enoch, sometime in the future. Colonizers from Earth head out there to, colonize the planet. For some unknown reason, this anomaly goes off and people awoke with special abilities. With your newfound abilities and having to deal with various human factions that broke apart on their own and alien life, you and others go and search for the source of the signal that originally brought you there. Outriders will feature 4 classes with each having their own skill trees and talents to customize your character to your liking. The game will feature up to 3-player co-op and boast a world tier difficulty system. I would compare this to Diablo's difficulty style, which in the end really means Outriders will mostly have a really long loot grind. But hey, if that's your thing, more power to you. Outriders will launch sometime in February and will also feature full crossplay between all platforms. A huge DC RPG releasing sometime this year is Gotham Knights. This action RPG will see players taking up the responsibility of protecting Gotham City as Batman's protégés in the wake of his apparent death. Players will be able to play as Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood, who all have their own unique styles and abilities in an open world Gotham City. Being able to play as these 4 is amazing, but Red Hood is the coolest, since he was being resurrected from death and all. But please let me know down below who you're most excited to play as, and more importantly, which villains you'd like to see in this game. We know that Mr. Freeze is in the game, as well as the Court of Owls. The Court had a lot of time on the show Gotham though, so I'm wondering how the game will handle them. I personally want to see Scarecrow and Two-Face, 2 of my favorite villains. Not much is known this besides the setting and the characters right now. A cool bit we do know is that this game will feature a drop-in co-op mode, so a friend can just hop in and help you out, and leave with no consequences to the main player. This will make for a great cool couch game. Oh, and the last thing I'd like to point out is the game does not take place in the Arkham game universe. This is an original story being told, which in all honesty doesn't look like that at all. The game literally looks like it follows exactly from the events of the Arkham series. But at any rate, Gotham Knights looks to be beautifully dark and awesome. Another RPG coming from the World of Darkness world is Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. So if vampires aren't your thing, you can always play as a werewolf in this action RPG. Earthblood will take place in the American Northwest, so states like Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. Players will assume the role as the werewolf Cahal, who has been recently banished from his tribe. But when he catches chatter about the Pentex Corporation that is causing major pollution and environmental problems for the world, he comes back to their aid. See, Pentex Corporation is working with the Vyrum, who is an enemy of Mother Earth Gaia, who they are slowly trying to destroy. As it is the duties of the werewolves to protect Mother Earth, this is a big issue. Cahal has 3 forms players will be able to use. Human form for dialogue and interactions, wolf form for stealth and exploring, and finally the werewolf form for combat and killing. There will be skill trees for Cahal, which will allow for different abilities as well as strengths and weaknesses. Now, I have seen some gameplay from a recent look at the game. Does it look like it belongs on a PS2? Possibly. But if graphics were everything, people wouldn't be hating Cyberpunk right now. I don't think we should really be judging the game yet solely on graphics alone. Could they be a bit better? Yeah, of course. But if the gameplay and story is really well done, and most importantly, it's fun, I think we can all look past that. So if you're looking for a nostalgic werewolf gaming feel, keep an eye out for this one coming February. And finally, for one of the biggest games coming this year, it's gotta be Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is an immersive open-world action RPG set in the 1800s of the Harry Potter universe. The game will have players playing as a late recipient of their Hogwarts letter, who has the ability to perceive and master ancient magic. Players will embark on a journey through familiar places such as the Forbidden Forest and Hogsmeade Village, as well as some other new locations. Players will be able to explore and discover fantastic beasts, craft potions, master spellcasting, upgrade our talents, and most importantly, customize our character and become the wizard we want to be. The game will be single player, but will offer the ability to have companions as you make your way through the wizarding world. The hook of the game is that since we can master ancient magic, will you use it for good or for something more sinister, as the site says. Being an evil wizard within Hogwarts would be quite an interesting playthrough. Harry Potter has always been about good versus evil, and this game seems to keep pushing that issue, as it also states that players will also encounter missions and scenarios that will pose difficult choices and determine what they stand for. So, what kind of wizard will you be? Let me know down below. We're all hoping 2021 is a better year in a lot of ways. And for the gaming space, I think it could be better than how it ended. I believe these RPGs have a good chance at that. I know there are other huge games in the works, but they might not be released this year. But we will talk about them in another video. What game are you most looking forward to from this list, if at all any? Remember to sub to the channel for your RPG news, and until next time, peace.